Good day. How are you? Amazing. Once upon a time, I was working for this organization, which honestly was the highlight of my professional career. And honestly. And I learned something. I had an aha moment. But I didn't think about it recently until I heard a stream by Mel Robbins. I don't know if you know Mel. She is an actual amazing super powerhouse. And she's very consistent. Her media, her links, her podcast, everything about her. She's phenomenal. And she used to be on CNN. She wrote many books. She has a definite soundbite. But the thing that really got me is something that she said. But let me tie it to what I want to tie it to so that you can understand the perspective. So, when I worked for this organization, I was young. And I'm a person that I'm all about transformation. I'm all about seeing a situation and telling you the resolution, not telling you the problem. I hate when people come to me with problems. I want them to conjure up a solution and say, hey, this is my idea for this. What do you think? And I could be supportive about it. But when they come to me with the problem without understanding the full dynamic, well, of course, I'll come work with you and strategize and help you figure out the solution. However, don't you see the better way? I want you to tap into that. So I got frustrated because every time I would do anything, it was always, I had all the ideas and I had the implementation, but I didn't see anyone else coming up with these ideas. And that was a little frustrating. And then I would get feedback that was crazy. Like, oh, you're too young for this, or you're too this for that, or this is that, or even crazy things like you don't have the right degree, or wow, where are you from? You're ghetto. Like, that was my feedback. And it always blew my mind because I didn't have the perspective. I thought I knew who I was, but I didn't think about how I was perceived. Please understand that's deep. Okay? And so one day, this person came up to me who is, to this day, my mentor. To this day. Okay, so she came to me and she was like, look, I heard what they said to you. Next time they tell you something like that, you just tell them typical. But don't say it out loud. Say it in your brain and don't let them know you're thinking it. It is a life changer. And she walked away. Like, she wasn't even my boss yet. And I was like, what did she just typical? So here I am in another meeting and I'm like, damn, man, they're going to ask me for my ideas. I'm going to tell my ideas. They're going to criticize me, use my ideas. So I'm in the meeting and I'm just nervous because I really want not to be looked at as ghetto, and I really want to be looked at not as a young person. I want to be looked or perceived as a woman with deep strengths, strong foundation, a conqueror, if you will, an Amazon of the professional world, not a young, naive child. Okay? So I go in the meeting and whatever is said, and right when I'm about to get offended, I said in my brain, typical. And then as soon as I said that, I instantly pivoted. And I was like, that's very interesting that you think that way. Why are you coming up with those ideas? I threw it right back at them. And then someone said something to me, and I did the number one thing that I tell everybody to do. But now I had the consciousness in the moment to zap back. So I tell everybody, this is my piece of advice, okay? This is not the typical or what I'm about to tell you. This is what I tell everybody. If someone tells you something and you feel offended, I want you to say, what did you say? Very simple. What was that? I'm sorry, could you repeat yourself? I didn't hear you. Now, I'm hard of hearing, so I get away with that a lot. But I really want you to say it again. Because you're going to be a coward. And I have a thing about cowards. I don't know if you know this. I don't like liars, and I definitely don't like cowards more than liars. But I don't like the two. Okay? And my father, used to say something like, once or twice, he would argue with my mom. And he would say, Dad, and she'd say, what did you say? And he would say, I have an itch, and walk away. Because under his breath, he had the power. But to her face, all of my mom, who reached all the way up to his shoulder, tiny my mom, he had no courage. And she would say, I don't like cowards. And I'm right there with you, Mom, standing behind you. Let me tell you something. I don't care how big, how strong, who you think you are, the owner, the this, the that, the billion-dollar man or woman. I will tell you to your face, nose to nose. That is how I am. I am what they call confrontational. But because of so many years of refinement, I have learned to be confrontational and professional. Period. So, in that moment, I said, I'm sorry, what did you say? I couldn't hear you. And now in front of everyone, this person had to repeat themselves. And then you know what they said? Guess. Never mind. It is because of the word typical that I was able to catch my breath, not turn red, not get inflamed, but own myself in that moment. And I learned a lot in that lesson. And moving forward, I constantly gave new advice. My new advice would be, you ask them to repeat themselves, and then you say in your brain before you ask them to repeat themselves, typical. Typical is your... Typical, you would say something like that because you don't even know what you're talking about, but you don't say it out loud. Okay, so now you know how much I love typical, right? I love this. It changed the game for me. And with that said, now here I am listening to Mel Robbins, and she's like, you know what? Da da da. You know who? Da da do. You know why? Da 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 dee. And I'm like, da 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 dee, da 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 do. I'm right here listening, like, yeah, like jiving. And then I got to one of her serious posts, and she said, you ever have friends that they go out to brunch and they don't invite you? Let them. You ever watching a series on Netflix and your husband skips ahead and you're about to get mad? Let them. You ever tell your kids something, they're not listening to you, and you're about to say, well, why did you? Let them. Let them is what she said. Quotation, let them. Close quotation. Typical, let them. This is the control button. Why? My favorite thing in an office space, and anyone who's ever worked with me knows, I'll walk in, and I'm going to tell you something. I'm not bragging. I always tell people I'm very wealthy. I don't have to explain to you my wealth. I don't have to. Some people think wealthy, like Scrooge McDuck, diving in a vault full of money. Wealth is a mindset, okay? Are my bills paid? Is life good? Is my family doing all right? Am I I'm wealthy. Get out of here. Do I have 2.5? Do I have my cars? I'm wealthy, okay? That's my perspective. I'm a poor kid from the Lower East Side. That is my perspective. There's no sweat on my brow because I'm struggling, bruh. Okay? So, sometimes I walk into the office and I'm like, who wants coffee? I got it. And I go ahead and give the treat. Hey guys, what are we having for lunch? DoorDash, let's go. My biggest pet peeve is when I come into the office, I'm like, guys, I'm hungry. Let me know if you're going to get food. And I come back and everybody and their mama eating. And here I am not eating. I can't stand that. I can't stand that disregard. I can't. It gets under my skin. Because then, I walk in, I got my Starbucks, bought all the kids Starbucks, bought all the secretary Starbucks, bought the janitor Starbucks, bought the cleaning guy Starbucks. I didn't get you now. Don't say nothing. Don't come over here. That's how I feel. I get very petty, okay? But let them. Why do I care? Who cares? Why does it bother me, right? That's crazy. I'm so honest. I'm so honest about my feelings, right? This is a podcast. This is about the truth. TRUTHF. You know what that F stands for? Fantastic life. I'm not going to sit here and bubblegum stuff for you. This is why. And I got to say why I like Mel. And this is why I like the magnificent, the Carmen Alvarez Gaglione. This is why I like them, okay? They are not putting on a song and dance for you. They are not. They tell you reasonably the truth. You ever heard of that? You can't handle the truth. That's what that is. I am so transparent. If we're in a meeting, you ever been in a meeting? We're in a meeting. And I think that this is the next big thing. What do you think? I agree. Here I am. Well, I don't think it's feasible. Let me tell you why. Bop, 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 bop.
The whole chat laughing.
The person asked me, I agree. Wait a second. Why don't you agree? See that right there? Yeah, open your eyes, folks. I'm in a meeting, and out of 10 people, 9 said yes, 1 said no. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I agree. Let's do it. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I agree. Yeah. I bought it. 9 out of 10, I'm going to listen to what you're saying. And if I don't think it's a good idea, I'm going to let you know. But I'm going to tell you something. What the boss, the jefe, the leader don't know. As soon as that person leaves the room, those 9 people turn to each other. I hate that idea. Why are we going to do that? And I'm like, you had your opportunity. Why didn't you tell me you didn't agree? Right there and then. Right there and then, Mel. Let them. Right? Dang, I wish I would think that way back when. Goodness gracious, when I learned typical, I wish I would have learned let them too in that time. Can we go back in time? Let me tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. There's this saying, if you don't vote, don't complain. If you don't have an opinion here nor there, you don't have an opinion. I did not grow up in the hardest life, struggling, watching family die around me, then having to go to college and figure out my whole world, then to persevere and become an amazing scholar, get my master's, about to do my DBA, to sit here because you hired me and be a yes man.
W.
On what earth does that make sense? On what galaxy does that make sense? I'm not going to let them there. That's my job at that point, right? I had many times I'm in a meeting, many different companies. I remember one time in my favorite career place in the whole world. I was in a meeting in negotiations, and my bosses, who were hardcore, you've never seen bosses like this, the 3 of them. And they were wicked. I love them so much. God rest her soul, Lucille Swing. Love her. Powerhouse. I've spoken about her before. And she would say something, and I would be like, you know what, Lucille? I don't think that's a good idea. Well, I don't care what you think. I don't pay you to think. Well, she told me right there. That's it. She didn't hire a yes man. She didn't hire a no man. She don't want no man or no woman to tell her nothing. That's a different type of breed right there. She wasn't seeking my advice or my opinion. She didn't care. One time I couldn't keep track of her. And so I went out for Christmas and I bought her a cell phone. One of those disposable cell phones. And she said, put that in the cabinet. I'm never using it. Okay, never used it. I definitely infringed upon her freedom of not being tapped in. She never used that phone. And then I would say, could you at least carry it in your bag for me? No, never did. Never did. God rest her soul. Never did. Right? She was like, let them try to call me. She was like, let you try to call me. She was like, I'm going to be home. Let them. That is her energy. I didn't see it back then. But she said to me in one meeting, she said, I like the fact that you told me the other day off. I was like, I didn't tell you off. I told you I like your idea. She was like, I like that about you. You're different. I was like, oh, okay. That's a compliment. I'll take it. Then there was this big meeting. And here comes Miss Carvin Alvarez. And she was like, you know what? I want you to work for me. And I was like, yeah. She was like, yeah, because you're tough. And you don't care what people think. You really are the most transparent person I I've ever met. And I was like, oh, yes, please take me. But I don't want to leave my ladies because I love them so much. I learned something. You are respected for the soapbox you stand on. You are so respected that you have all this repertoire, credentials, pedigrees, that you actually use your brain to conjure up an idea and spit it out. You are so respected. But when you sit in a room and you're a bobblehead, glug, 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 yes, 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 you're not respected. You're not. What did we learn here, folks? What did we learn here? 1, when somebody offends you, immediately remember, they're fine. They don't care they offended you. You're the only one that cares. Say typical. Typical. Then take a breath and then say to them, I'm sorry, what'd you say? Now they gotta own it. If they don't, I said your breath smells like coffee. Oh, excuse me, right? But if they don't say it and they cowered up, now you know they're a coward. Move on. Move on. In that moment, move on. Going forward. Oh yeah, I work with that person. They are a coward though. Remember that. Okay? Next lesson. You're not a part of it. You're not in loop. You're not in this meeting with the mayor. You'll be all right. You'll be all right. Let them. There was a wedding. You weren't invited. I remember one time my friend got married. She didn't invite me. And then 2 weeks later, we're working together. And she was like, I gotta talk to you. I was like, what? I'm mad at you. I'm like, why are you mad at me? She's like, you weren't at my wedding. I was like, you didn't invite me. She's like, well, when I got to my wedding, I realized you weren't there. And then I was like, oh my God, why didn't she say anything? If I wasn't on the first list, don't think I'm going to run up for your second list. That's lesson number 2, folks. If you're not included, you were excluded. You were never included. Let them. She apologized. She said to me, oh, I feel so bad. I wanted you there. I didn't realize I left you off my list. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? A year later, they were divorced. Hey, I wasn't meant to be there. You know what I mean? I'm not the glue. Okay? Next lesson. Stay courageous. Sometimes someone will say to you, hey, that person's pretty introverted. They're not introverted. 9 out of 10, they're the smartest person in the room. They know to be quiet. They know to be observant. And they only roll with people that roll with them. I have a friend. Everyone's like, oh my God, your friend's so introverted. But they're not. They're not. It's not that they're introverted. They just don't like you. You know what I mean? Guys, back to transparency, okay? I will not serve you a plate of steaming hot pile of it with sprinkles. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be nice to protect something that is sacred to you, that is the glass bubble you're in. Let's just bust it, cut it all out, and let's just have bare honesty. Sometimes I meet with people and I said, well, this project did fail because you were, constantly not submitting your stuff on time. And therefore we couldn't get the grant. And now this is where we are, right? I had a recent project that I was helping out a friend who was seeking to get bicycle chargers. And I'm sorry if my friend's going to feel shouted out, but they were getting multiple bicycle chargers for Brooklyn, in a Brooklyn space, like a Brooklyn loft. But they didn't submit it on time. But everything was done. And now they're frustrated. But it's on them, right? So I have to just run it back real quick. There's a little ownership. You need ownership. Ownership, folks. All right, typical to ease the pain. What'd you say to find a coward? Let them, because just let them, bro. Move on. And transparency. You live too long. You're too smart. Knock it off. Knock it off, kiddo. Wow. I felt great. Let me tell you, Mel really driven this out of me. She's a phenomenal person. You can find her by, if you follow me, I'm definitely following her on LinkedIn, on all the professional social medias that I serve, and always on this podcast. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me, and I'm going to let you have a great day. Bye now.